Okay, this is chapters 30 and 31 of Book Lovers. 30. When I sit up, Charlie catches my arm, his eyes heavy and warm. "Stay," he whispers. My heart flutters. "Why?" He tucks my hair behind my ear, mouth quirking. "So many reasons." "I just need one." He sits up, his hand settling between my thighs, his mouth pressing to my shoulder tenderly as the pressure of his thumb moves in a slow circle. "One." "In that case," I say, "maybe two." He leans in and kisses me deeply, his hand gentle at my throat, thumb nestling into the dip at its base. "Because," he says, "I want you to." "I don't stay over at strange men's places," I say, blood fizzing. "Then it's lucky this isn't my place." "Yes, because if it were, your parents would come running in, bleary-eyed with a shotgun, thinking you were being burglarized." "But at least we'd already be inside a getaway car," he says. I laugh, and the corner of his mouth hitches higher. "Stay, Nora." I feel that blooming in my chest again, like petals uncurling to leave something delicate exposed in its center, and then a stab of panic, a needle in my unprotected heart. "I can't," I barely whisper. His disappointment is visible only for a moment. Then I watch it dissolve as he accepts it, and it feels like some of those healed-over stitches in my heart open back up. He sits up, searching for his discarded clothes, and I touch my arm, stilling him. More than anyone I've ever met, Charlie craves honesty, and he doesn't push anyone for it. He takes it as immutable and synthesizes it into his word, and I don't want to be another person dealing in half-truths with him. I was staying at my boyfriend's place. It actually hurts to say the words. I've never had to before. Libby already knows, and I don't talk about this with anyone else. I've never wanted to make myself that vulnerable, to see the pitying looks, to feel weak. Charlie's eyes hold mine. "Jacob," I say, "I was with him the night my mom died." His brow softens. I haven't weighed out pros against cons, costs versus benefits of telling him. I just want it out. Want to hand it, this thing I've never been able to fix, to him and see what happens. He was my first serious boyfriend, maybe my only serious one in a way. I mean, I dated other men for longer, but he was the only one I ever chose like that, over everything else. Or maybe it was that I didn't choose him, just fell head first into my feelings for him without any caution. I was 20, and I was always over at his place, so we decided I should move in. And my mom, she was such a romantic. She wasn't even trying to talk me out of it. She wanted me to marry him. I did too. Charlie says nothing, just watches me, leaving space for me to go on or to stop. My phone died at some point in the night. My voice is hoarse now, like my throat is closing off to keep the rest in, but I can't stop. I need him to know. I need to not be alone in this for another second. When I was with him, I'd just get so swept up. When we woke up, I didn't even plug my phone in until after we'd made breakfast. Eaten, had sex, made more coffee. The back of my nose burns. Libby had been calling me for 4 hours. She was alone at the hospital, and nothing comes out after that. My mouth is moving, but there's no sound. Charlie sits forward, pulls me against his chest. His mouth presses hard against the top of my head, his thumb brushing over my shoulder. "I can't imagine." He pulls his legs over my lap, crushes me to his chest again, smoothing my hair and kissing it. I close my eyes, focusing on these sensations in this moment. I'm here, I promise myself. It's over. It can't hurt me anymore. Libby would wake up screaming. My voice is wet now, thin, for months after Mom died, and I couldn't sleep at all. I was too scared I wouldn't be there if she needed me. I learned to wait until she woke in a panic, to throw my blankets aside and scoot to the far side of my bed so she could slip in beside me under the quilt. I'd wrap my arms around her until she cried herself back to sleep. I never told her it would be okay. I knew it wouldn't. Instead, I took up Mom's old refrain of comforting us. "Let it out, sweet girl." "Jacob was great at first," I say. "I barely saw him, but he understood. And then he got the chance to go to this residency out in Wyoming. He was a writer." "He left you?" Charlie says. "I told him to go," I admit weakly. I feel like I didn't have the time or the energy for him anyway, and I didn't want to hold him back. "Nora," his thumb nudges my temple as he shakes his head. "You shouldn't have been alone through that." "He couldn't have done anything," I whisper. "He could have been there," he says. "He should have." "Maybe," I say, but it wasn't just him failing me. I kept making plans to visit and then canceling. I couldn't leave Libby, and then He brushes my sweat-dampened bangs out of my eyes. You don't have to tell me. I shake my head. All this time, deep in the pit of my stomach, a shadowy monster of grief and fear and anger has been in the corner where I locked it, but it's been growing. New ropes of angry black lashing out in every direction, starving, mad with hunger. A demon that's going to devour me from the inside out. I planned to survive visit, got Xanax, took a bus out because that's all I could afford, left Libby alone. I could tell as soon as I saw him that things had changed. And then, the first night I was there, I woke up in a panic. I didn't know where I was, and I couldn't find my phone. All I could think was that something had happened to Libby. I was hallucinating almost. My chest hurt so badly I thought I was dying. Jacob thought I was having a heart attack. He took me to the ER and they sent me home a couple hours later with a huge bill and some breathing exercises. It happened again the next night and the next. I told Jacob I needed to go home early. He bought me a plane ticket and told me he wasn't coming back. He'd decided to stay. I wanted to figure something out. Libby only had a year of high school left, but I thought maybe I could move her out there with us. A week after I got home, he told me he'd met someone else. Like the universe was punishing me for wanting too much, for even considering putting Libby through that when she was at her breaking point. It still makes me sick to think about. Charlie's fingers glide up and down my arm. I'm so sorry. It's not that I am sure he was the one or something. I close my eyes, heart racing. It's just, ever since then, it's been hard to imagine letting anyone close like that. Not when I'm so fucking broken I can't sleep anywhere but my own bed. Even here it's hard, with Libby right next to me. I've just never trusted myself since then. I press my face into his warm skin as that ache yawns wide in my chest. I'm sorry, Don't be sorry, he says roughly. Please don't apologize for letting me know you. It's embarrassing, I say, to be so obsessed with being in control that sleeping makes me panic. I'm a fucking mess. He turns me to face him, his hands laced against my lower back. Everyone's a mess, he says. You're not. He smiles faintly, the reflection of the embers in the fireplace catching the flecks of gold in his irises. I'm living in my childhood bedroom. Because you're helping your family, I say. I threw mine under the bus the first chance I got. Hey, he touches my chin, lifts it. Your ex left you in the fucking wilderness, Nora, on your own, and you did your best. You're not the villain in his story. He is, and not because he fell for someone else, but because he exited your relationship the second you were the one who needed something. He cradles my face between his hands. I'll take you home whenever you want, he says. But if you want to stay and you wake up screaming, it's okay. I'll make sure you're okay. And if you want to stay and then change your mind, I don't mind driving you back at 4 a.m. I read once that not everyone thinks in words. I was shocked imagining these other people who don't use language to make sense of everyone and everything, who don't automatically organize the world into chapters, pages, sentences. Looking into Charlie's face, I understand it. The way a crush of feeling and feathery expressions can move through your body, bypassing your mind. How a person can know there's nothing worth saying, but have no concept of what exactly that is. I'm not thinking in words. It's a feeling of not quite thank you, not just you make me feel safe, but something that dances in between those. I want to stay, I say, but I don't think I can. He nods. Then I'll take you home. Not yet. He smooths my hair, tucks it behind my ear. Not yet. We lie down together, my back pressed against his warm stomach, his hand draped over my hips, fingers brushing along my ribs like tiny skiers, following the gentle slopes until he's hard again, and I'm drunk on the way he's touching me. We have slow, dreamy sex, and when it's over, I settle against his chest, feeling his heartbeat thudding softly against me, as calming as the lights and hums of the city blaring past my apartment window, a whole world that keeps spinning while you sleep. If I don't say it aloud, I think it doesn't count. Maybe it won't even be true, but it is true, and I'm not sure I'd want it to stop it, even if I knew how. I am falling in love with Charlie Lostra. In the morning, I skip my run. Libby and I sit on a blanket spread in the middle, coffee in hand, and I tell her everything. Eyes light up from within, she says, "He's staying?" And my heart crumples in on itself. Why don't you tell me how you really feel? She tucks her nose into the steam rising from her mug. Sorry, I didn't mean it like that. Like you would love nothing more than to put Charlie Lostra on a ship bound to permanently circle the earth. It's not that, it's just... She scoots around in her chair. I guess it changes how I see him. He qualifies for the list now. How helpful. Nora, she sets her mug in the glass. If you're really this excited about him, you should explore it. I can't remember the last time you were excited about someone. No, wait, I can. It was a full 10 years ago. The deep pain, like a pulsing phantom limb, doesn't quite feel so severe as it usually does when I think about Jacob. I mean, what I told Charlie, that it wasn't about missing my ex so much as the loneliness of being unable to trust myself with anyone. It doesn't matter what we explore, I say. We know how this ends. Libby squeezes my arm. You don't know. You can't until you try. This isn't a movie, Libby, I say. Love isn't enough to change the details of a person's life or their needs. It doesn't make everything fall into place. I don't want to give up everything. I can't let myself do that. There's still no happy ending for a woman who wants it all, the kind who lies awake aching with furious hunger, unspent ambition making her bones rattle in her body. My cozy West Village apartment with its huge windows, the cafe on the corner that knows my order, all 4 seasons on the Central Park Mall. The job at Loggia, I think, the image of their gallery white offices and balsa wood floors burning bright in my mind. Knowing my sister is okay, waking up every night believing to my core that I'm safe, that nothing can get me. How does a vast, uncontrollable feeling like love fit into that? It's a loose cog in a delicate machine. When I look back to Libby, her lips are parted, her brow knit together. Love? She repeats the word in a small voice. I look back toward the cottage, gleaming in the sun, surrounded by lazily twirling butterflies. Hypothetically, I lie to my sister. She lets me. In the early afternoon, Bea and Tala come bounding up the hillside, Bea in fairly pink and Tala in navy overalls. My heart soars, and to no one's surprise, tears rush to Libby's eyes as I help her off the blanket. They scream, "Mommy!" in their impossibly high voices and hurl themselves at her legs, where she peppers their tangled hair with kisses. "I missed you so, so, so much," she tells them. Tala looks grumpy and resentful as she wraps her arms around Libby's leg, and Bea, of course, immediately starts crying, like she's in bad need of a nap, and then Brendan comes huffing up behind them, looking roughly 23 times as tired as Charlie Lostra ever has. When his and Libby's eyes catch, their smiles are calm, not overjoyed, but relieved, like they've slipped back into the current and don't have to work quite so hard. The final ounces of anxiety I've been carrying around dissipate in an instant. These two people love each other. Whatever I thought was going on between them, they're okay. They belong together in some mysterious way, and they both seem to know it. When Libby finishes her penance with the girls, Brendan pulls me into one of his famously awkward and excruciatingly earnest side hugs. "Good flight?" I ask. "There were some tears," he says wearily. "Oh, were they showing Mamma Mia on the plane again?" I say. You know you can't tell anything. Oh my god. You know you can't handle anything with Meryl in it at that altitude. Right then the girls pry themselves from Libby and barrel at me, screaming, not quite in unison. "No, no!" "My favorite girls in the whole world," I say, catching them. Tala screeches, "We flew on the airplane!" "You did?" I sweep her onto my hip and squeeze Bea's hand. "Who drove, you or Bea?" Bea giggles. It is, very likely, the sound that the earth made the first time it saw the sun come up. "No." Tala shakes her head, irritated by my incompetence. Honestly, when she's grumpy, it's the cutest thing in the world. May all our sour moods be so adorable. I guide them across the grass away from Libby and Brendan so they can have a second alone. Brendan looks like he could use a few years in a cryogenic chamber, whereas Libby is grabbing his ass like that is not at all what she needs. "Hey, I forget," I say, leading the girls toward the flower nestled around the footbridge. "How do you feel about butterflies?" They have a lot of thoughts, and they're sure to scream them all. 31. Libby chooses a dinner spot in downtown Asheville, a chic Cuban restaurant with a rooftop patio. Yesterday's storm left left the air cool and breezy, a huge relief after the last 3 sweaty weeks. The city is lit up below us, halfway between quaint village and bustling metropolis, and the food is divine. Brendan and I split a bottle of wine, and Libby even has a couple sips, moaning as she swishes them around in her mouth. It kind of feels like we're in New York, doesn't it? She says, eyes misty. If you close your eyes, just the sounds of all these people and that feeling in the air. Brendan's mouth screws up like he's considering disagreeing with her, but I just nod along. It doesn't feel like New York, but with all of us together, it almost feels like home. I feel an improbable wave of nostalgia at the thought of running up or down the stairs to a train platform, hearing that metallic shriek, feeling the wind gust through the stairwell, and not knowing if I've arrived in the nick of time or if my train just went screaming past. What's the weirdest thing you miss about the city? I text Charlie. He writes back. It used to be having access to a Dunkin' Donuts within 3 blocks at all times. I smile at my phone. The DD to person ratio there has to be like 1 to 5. What else? I miss Italy, he says, but I wouldn't call it weird. If you don't miss Italy, we could never speak again, because you'd be in prison where you'd belong. Relieved to have dodged that bullet, he says. Also not weird, but I think a lot about the first day in spring that's actually kind of warm, how everyone's out at once, and it feels like we're all almost drunk from the sun. People in the park in shorts and bikini tops, eating popsicles, even though it's like 50 degrees out. Charlie, I reply, those things are objectively amazing. He takes a while on his next reply. Early morning commute mariachi bands, he says, or opera singers, or any singing group, really. I know it's not a popular stance, but I fucking love when I'm almost asleep on the train and suddenly 5 guys are singing their hearts out. I love watching everyone's reactions. There are always some people who are kind of feeling it, and some who look like they're plotting murder, and then the ones who pretend it's not happening. I always tip because I don't want to live in a world where no one's doing that. I can't think of a greater symbol of hope than a person who's willing to drag themselves out of bed and sing at the top of their lungs to a group of strangers trapped on a train. That tenacity should be rewarded. I write, your nightmare brain. And here, I thought you were using me for my nightmare body. And then, a minute later, I love your brain too, and your body, all of it. I've spent 10 years guiding my life away from this feeling, this terrible want. All it took was 3 weeks and a fictional woman named Nadine Winters to pull me right back. I don't make any plans for tomorrow afternoon, Libby says, kicking my sandal under the table. I don't make any plans for tomorrow afternoon, Libby says, kicking my sandal under the table. I've got a surprise for you. Brendan's looking at the table almost guiltily. Either he's not convinced I'll like my surprise, or Libby's threatened him with murder if he gives it away. Brendan, I say, fishing, tell your wife she can't go skydiving while pregnant. He laughs and lifts his hands, but still avoids my gaze. Never tell Miss Steffens what she can and cannot do. The editing job at Loggia flutters across my mind, and Charlie's voice saying, if I had to pick one person to be in my corner, it'd be you, every time. Once again, Libby has me tie a silk scarf over my eyes for the length of our cab ride, driven, unfortunately, by Hardy, who luckily it only lasts 5 minutes, and then Libby's rushing me out from the car singing, we're here! Once an unofficial town tour, I guess. Nope, Hardy says, chuckling. Though y'all really got to do one. You're missing out. Funeral for Old Man Whittaker's fictional dog, I guess. Libby shuts the car door behind me. Colder. Funeral for the iguana that played Old Man Whittaker's fictional dog in the community theater play. I listen for clues as to our location, but the only sound is the breeze through some trees, which could put us approximately anywhere. There are 2 stairs, okay? She prods me forward. Now, straight ahead, there's a small ledge. I stretch my foot out, feeling through space until I find it. A blast of cold air hits me, and my shoes click onto hardwood floors as we take a few more steps. Now, Libby stops. Give me a drum roll. I slap my palms against my thighs while she unties the scarf and yanks it away. We're standing in an empty room, one with dark wooden floors and white shiplap walls. A large window overlooks a thicket of blue-green pine trees, and Libby steps in front of it, vibrating with anxious energy despite her grin. Imagine a huge wooden table right here, she says, and some wicker plant stands under this window, and a Scandinavian chandelier, something sleek and modern, you know? Okay, I say, following her into the next room. A dark blue velvet couch, she says, and like a small canvas tent in one corner for the girls. Something we can leave up, string some lights inside. She leads me down a narrow hall, and then I follow her through another doorway as she flicks on the lights to reveal a butter yellow bathroom. Yellow 50s tile, yellow wallpaper, yellow tub, yellow sink. This needs some work, she says, but look how huge it is. I mean, there's a tub and there's a whole other bathroom with a walk-in shower. That one's already been redone. She looks to me for some sort of confirmation that I'm hearing her, and I am, but there's a dull buzzing rising in my skull like a horde of bees growing more and more agitated by the uncanny sense of wrongness creeping up my spine. There's an ensuite, 3 whole baths. Can you imagine? She gestures toward a smear of lipstick on the carpet beside a full pot of coffee's dyed stain. Ignore that. I've already checked and there's hardwood under it. There will be some damage from the spills, probably, but I've always loved a good rug. She stops in the middle of the room and holds her arms aloft at her sides. What do you think? About you loving rugs? Her smile wavers. About the house. The blood rushing through my eardrums dims my voice. This house? In the middle of Sunshine Falls? Her smile shrinks. The buzzing swells. It sounds like no, like a million miniature Noras humming. This isn't happening. This can't be happening. You're misunderstanding. Libby's hands cradle her stomach, her frown lines firming up between her brows. You wouldn't believe how cheap it is. I'm sure I wouldn't. I'd probably fall down dead, and then my ghost would haunt this place. And every night, when I rose out of the floorboards, I'd scare the shit out of the owners by asking, now, how many closets did you say it has? But I don't see how that's important. I shake my head. Lib, you couldn't live somewhere like this. Her face goes slack. I couldn't? Your life's in New York, I say. Brendan's job is in New York, the girls' school, our favorite restaurants, our favorite parks. Me, Mom, every last bit of her, every memory, every spot where she stood in some other life a decade ago, every window we looked into, our mittened hands folded together, the 3 of us in a row as we watched Santa's animatronic sleigh arc over a miniature Manhattan skyline. Every step across the Brooklyn Bridge on the first day of spring or the last of summer. Freeman Books, The Strand, Books Are Magic, McNally Jackson, the Fifth Avenue Barnes & Noble. You've loved it here, Libby sounds uncertain, young. All those veins of ice holding my cracked heart together thaw too fast, broken pieces sliding off like melting glaciers, leaving raw spots exposed. It's been a great break, but Libby, in a week I want to go home. She turns away. Right before she speaks, I feel this throb in my gut, a warning, a change in barometric pressure. The buzzing drops out. Her voice is clear. Brendan got a new job in Asheville. I felt something coming, but it didn't prepare me for this missed step, weightless, the sensation of falling from a great height, hitting every stair on the way down. Libby's looking at me again, waiting. I don't know what for. I don't know what to say. What is the correct course of action when the planet's been punted off its axis? I have no plan, no fix-it checklist. I'm standing in an empty house watching the world unravel. That is what Brendan kept checking in about, I whispered, the roar of blood in my ear starting anew. He was waiting for you to tell me. The muscles in Libby's jaw flex, an admission of guilt. The list, I choke out. This trip, that's what all this was about? You're leaving and this whole elaborate game of Simon Says was some fucked up goodbye? It's not like that, she murmurs. What about the lawyer, I say. How does she fit into this? The what? The world sways. The divorce attorney, the one Sally gave you the number for? Understanding dawns on her face. A friend of hers, she says feebly, who knew about a good preschool here. I press my hands to the sides of my head. They're looking at schools. They're looking at houses. How long have you known, I ask. It happened fast, she says. How long, Libby? Breath rushes out between her lips, since a few days before we made the plans to come here. And there's no way out of it? I rub my forehead. I mean, if it's money, I don't want out of it, Nora. She crosses her arms over her chest. I made this decision. But you just said it happened fast. You haven't had time to think about this? As soon as we decided Brendan would apply for the job, it felt right, she says. We're tired of being on top of each other. We're tired of sharing one bathroom. We're tired of being tired. We want to spread out. We want our kids to be able to play in the woods. Because Lyme disease is such a blast, I demand. I want to know that if something goes wrong, we're not trapped on an island with millions of other people all trying to get away. I'm on that island, Libby. Her face goes white, her voice shattering. I know that. New York's our home. Those millions of other people are our family. The museums and the galleries and the High Line, skating at Rockefeller Center, the Broadway shows, you're fine just giving all that up? Giving me up. It's not like that, Nora, she says. We just started looking at houses and everything came together. Holy shit, I turn away dizzy. My arms are heavy and numb, but my heart is clattering around like a bowling ball on a roller coaster. Do you already own this house? She doesn't reply. I spin back. Libby, did you buy this house without even telling me? She says softly. We don't close until the end of the week. I step backwards, swallowing, like I can force everything that's already been said back down, reverse time. I have to go. Where? She demands. I don't know, I shake my head. Anywhere else. I recognize this street, a row of 50s-style ranches with well-tended gardens, pine-covered mountains jutting up at their backs. The sun's melting into the horizon like peach ice cream, and the smell of roses drifts over the breeze. A few yards over, a half-dozen kids run, shrieking and laughing through a sprinkler. It's beautiful. I want to be anywhere else. Libby doesn't follow me. I didn't expect her to. In 30 years, I've never walked away from a fight with her. She's been the one I've had to chase. When things were bad at school or she'd gone through a particularly rough breakup in those dark, endless years after we lost Mom. I'm the one who follows. I just never thought I'd have to follow her so far or lose her entirely. It's happening again. The stinging in my nose, the spasms in my chest. My vision blurs until the flower bushes go bleary and the kids' laughter warbles. I head toward home. Not home, I think. The next thought is so much worse. What home? It reverberates through me, rings a panic rippling outward. Home has always been Mom and Libby and me. Home is striped blue and white towels on the hot sand at Coney Island. It's the tequila bar where I took Libby after her exams to dance all night. Coffee and croissants in Prospect Park. It's falling asleep on the train despite the mariachi band playing 10 feet away, Charlie Lustra digging through his wallet across the car. Only it's not that anymore, because without Mom and Libby there is no home. So I'm not running toward anything, just away. Until I see good books down the block, lights glowing against the bruised purple sky. The bells chime as I stepped inside, and Charlie looks up from the local bestsellers, his surprise morphing into concern. I know you're working. My voice comes out throttled. I just wanted to be somewhere safe, familiar, comfortable, near you. He crosses to me in 2 strides. What happened? I try to answer. It feels like fishing lines wound around my airway. Charlie pulls me into his chest, arms coiling around me. Libby's moving. I have to whisper to get the words out. She's moving here. That's what this was all about. The rest wrenches upward. I'm going to be alone. You're not alone. He draws back, touching my jaw, his eyes almost vicious in their intensity. You're not, and you won't be. Libby, Bea, Tala, Brendan. It knocks the wind out of me. Christmas, New Year's, field trip to the Natural History Museum, sitting in front of a huge Jackson Pollock at the Met, asking the girls to please make us rich beyond our wildest dreams with their finger painting, laughing at serendipity until whipped cream comes out of their noses. All the memories and all those future moments all together with Mom's memory hovering close. It's slipping away. The stinging in my nose, the weight in my chest, the pressure behind my eyes. Charlie tugs me back into the office. I've got you, Nora, he promises quietly. I've got you, okay? It's like a dam has broken. I hear the strangled sound in my throat and my shoulders start to shake, and then I'm crying. Tidal waves hitting me, every word obliterated under a current so powerful there's no fighting it. I'm dragged under. It's okay, he whispers, rocking me back and forth. You're not alone, he promises, and beneath it I can hear the unsaid rest. I'm here. For now, I think, because nothing, not the beautiful and not the terrible, lasts.